Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story that seriously sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood spy thriller. But I assure you, every single detail we're about to cover is entirely real. We're looking at a devastating, frankly shocking breach of U.S. Navy security. And you know what the most alarming part is? It wasn't some highly coordinated strike by an elite team of hackers or a complex infiltration. No, it was carried out by a single insider, a sailor who just quietly walked past the security checkpoints every single day. Okay, let's dive into this, because those two words, "I'm screwed," were the exact first words Jinchao Wei said to federal agents. Just imagine the sheer weight of that realization for a second. This wasn't a denial. He didn't immediately demand a lawyer right out of the gate. It was just this instant, crushing realization that his double life had completely come crashing down and that the federal government knew exactly what he'd been doing in the shadows. So to understand how we got to that confession, let's kind of put ourselves right in the middle of the action. It's 7:14 in the morning, a totally standard, crisp morning at Naval Base San Diego in August of 2023. Wei is just arriving, probably expecting another completely routine day of duty, but the FBI, they were already there. They were waiting for him. It was a perfectly executed morning sting operation that brought a sudden, screeching halt to a massive intelligence hemorrhage. But to truly grasp the magnitude of what the FBI stopped that morning, we actually have to go back to the beginning. Section 1. The setup. The naval enthusiast. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast. Who was Jinchao Wei, and how did this totally unprecedented compromise of national security actually begin? On paper, Jinchao Wei was a machinist's mate, third class. To the outside world, that sounds like a fairly standard mid-level rank. But look at his access. Wei was stationed aboard the USS Essex, which happens to be one of America's most capable and advanced warships. And because of his highly specific role, his daily routine gave him direct, unmonitored access to restricted systems, blueprints, and operational data that foreign adversaries literally spend billions of dollars trying to acquire. And unfortunately, that access made him a prime target. In February of 2022, Wei gets this message on social media. It didn't come from some menacing, shadowy figure in an alleyway. It came from someone simply claiming to be a naval enthusiast. It seemed completely innocent at first, right? Just someone wanting to chat about ships. But that enthusiast was actually a Chinese intelligence officer. And what started as a casual social media interaction rapidly evolved into a highly calculated, heavily encrypted intelligence operation. Section 2. The leak. 18 months of espionage. Because listen, this wasn't just a one-time lapse in judgment. Over a year and a half, the volume of stolen intelligence was absolutely staggering. We are talking about 60 highly sensitive technical manuals, thousands upon thousands of pages of restricted data. He didn't just leak broad, high-level concepts either. He handed over specific ship locations, detailed weapons descriptions, and the highly classified power and steering systems of the USS Essex. He methodically gathered this data up and funneled all of it directly to his handler using encrypted messaging apps. He was effectively handing over the vital organs of one of America's most capable warships. So the crucial point is this staggering number, $12,000. That is it. That's the entire amount he was paid for 18 months of treason. When you think about the immense, basically unquantifiable value of the restricted military systems he compromised, the disparity is shocking. He sold out the capabilities of the USS Essex and his fellow sailors for the price of a cheap used car. It is an absurdly low payout for such a catastrophic breach of security. Section 3. The audacity, hidden in plain sight. Honestly, perhaps the most chilling part of this explainer is the mindset of the asset himself. He wasn't acting out of ignorance. We know for a fact he knew exactly what he was doing because he said so himself. In a text message sent to a friend, Wei literally described his own actions as quite obviously espionage. He acknowledged his treason in black and white. And yet, despite that crystal clear realization of the immense damage he was doing to his country, he kept going. He just packed up more data, encrypted more messages, and hit send again. And this brilliantly illustrates just how brazen he became. He actually sent a text message to his own mother. In it, he actively boasted about his illicit activities, contrasting himself with others by saying, "Whereas I am just leaking secrets." He treated the betrayal of the United States military as a casual bragging right, completely detached from the devastating reality of his actions. And if you thought it couldn't possibly get more audacious, consider this astonishing fact. During his 18-month run, Wei actually read a Department of Justice press release about another Navy espionage case. He literally read the news that the DOJ was actively hunting down and prosecuting sailors for doing exactly what he was doing. The warning signs were flashing bright red right in front of his face, and still he stubbornly refused to stop. Section 4. The Consequences. A Historic Prosecution. Let's move to and see how this builds because, of course, the illusion of invincibility eventually shatters. Tracing his extremely swift downfall, this was actually a first-of-its-kind espionage prosecution in the Southern District of California. Following that morning sting operation by the FBI in August of 2023, the justice system moved decisively. He was convicted in August of 2025. And finally, in January of 2026, Jinchao Wei was sentenced to 200 months, that's 16 years and 8 months, in federal prison. That little $12,000 payout ultimately cost him nearly 2 decades of his life. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought to ponder. We build these multi-billion-dollar warships, right? Packed with the most advanced defensive technologies on the planet. But if a single sailor can compromise those systems for just $12,000, all starting from a simple social media message from a fake naval enthusiast, we really have to ask ourselves, just how secure are our most advanced national security assets in the digital age? The human element remains our absolute greatest vulnerability. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a completely new perspective on the hidden battles happening right now in the digital shadows.